What's going on, everybody? We are live here at that EFIN Sports Show. It's that EFIN morning after. We're going to wrap up week 10. We'll get into week 11. We'll be joined later by NFL writer Adam Hulse. Let's get it started. Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday. That means it's time to wrap up your fantasy week. Week 10 in the books. We've got all kinds of stats. We're going to run through the games. We're going to run through your fantasy players. And as always, we are joined by the best in the business, NFL writer Adam Hulse. Adam Hulse joined us. Adam, what a week. We had a ton of close games. We'll get into that in a second. Fantasy was all over the place for me. Your Cowboys absolutely got it done. I mean, I don't know. Add what you like, and good morning, sir.
Well, I think the most reliable thing in fantasy sports these days is just play all your Texans, right? Just count on the Texans every week because they're at the top of the charts in every position. It feels like every week now. And CJ Stroud, your Buckeye, very well might be the MVP this year. I mean, he's already got Rookie of the Year in the bag. You know, that race is over. He could not play another game this year, and he'll still win the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. MVP, he really might get it. The only other rookie to ever win the MVP award was Jim Brown back in the 50s.
I think probably Mahomes has it until he decides to lose it, but I do think, you know, you're not crazy for bringing his name up in the conversation right now. He's just playing lights out. He's doing everything.
If he gets that team to the playoffs, I think he deserves it with the numbers he's putting up, with the lack of talent on that roster compared to the other top teams, with the number of competitive teams in the AFC. If he gets the Texans into the playoffs and keeps playing the way he's playing, he has a very good case for it.
Yeah, you remember at the beginning of the season, we were like, Texans receivers, they're not going to be great. Don't touch them. They're the main, they're all taken right now. Noah Brown showed out. Tank Dell, we'll talk about him in a second, but wide receiver 1 last week. We know what Nico Collins has been doing, of course, out this week. I mean, the Texans are doing it, and all the teams in Texas are doing it. Dallas just showed out, and it was against the Giants, but this, and we'll talk about this more during the game, but what you were worried about, you're never worried about if Dallas was going to win this game. You're worried about how they were going to win it. And they won it exactly how they needed to win this game to get back in the conversation of the big game at the end of the year.
Absolutely. And I think that's what I said last week about the Cowboys, that they don't just have to win. They have to win big. They have to dominate. Dak has to look great in this game in particular. And all of those things happened. They took care of business. And they have kind of an easier stretch over these next 2 games as well. They play the Panthers and the Commanders in their next 2. Those are both games that are supposed to be wins as well. So the Cowboys are still in a good spot right now.
Yeah, it's really good. Cowboys did good. Houston did good. My Steelers, told you, that's sketchy, baby. That schedule is set up for them to win, and they got it done.
Grinders. They are grinders.
All 3 of those teams good. Some other teams did pretty good as well. But let's talk about what's really important. Let's talk about how we did. You know, that at the beginning of the season, before it ever started, we went through every team week by week, game by game. We told you exactly how it was going to turn out, and we've done pretty well. Although this week was a little more in the air, but that's all right. We'll talk about it. This week I went 8-6 and Adam went 7-7. This is our worst week yet and still above 500. So both of us above 500 every single week so far. We've usually dominated, but there are a couple surprises. We'll talk about that. I am 94-56 on the season. Adam is 97-52. I have a 63% win rate, but the NFL writer that he is, Adam, has a 65% win rate. We talk about visitors versus home. Visitors are now 67-83, 83 in the win category, 55% of the time so far this year. But this is the fun stat. This is where it really gets fun, Adam. 10 games. There are 14 games played this week. 10 games were within 4 points. 7 games were actually within 3 points after last night. And home teams, it didn't really matter. If your home home teams went 6-4 in those 4-point games. They went 4-3 in those 3-point games. But man, 10 of the 14 games within 4 points this week. That's crazy. That's cray.
Yeah, and I think 4 or 5 of them were decided by a field goal as time was expiring, right? I mean, it was just one of these crazy weeks where everything was competitive. A lot of the games came right down to the wire. That was an enjoyable week. This next week ahead kind of looks like it's probably going to be the opposite. I think there's like 5 double-digit spreads on the board this week. So this looks like more of a chalky week or a big upset week.
Yeah, a lot of money was lost this week in the final seconds out in Vegas.
Yeah.
That is for sure. So that's the record watch for this week. Again, we're still above 500 every week. We're still above 500 on the season. Honestly, as far as like this goes, and I'll put our records against anybody's, especially since we predicted it every single game at the beginning of the season. To have an over 60% win rate right now is pretty phenomenal. It just is.
Yeah, I mean, winning 65%, if we knew all of the variables, would be extremely impressive. But to kind of do it blind without knowing the injuries and the hot teams and cold teams and things like that, I mean, around 65% is unbelievable. My only worry is that when we do this again for next season, people might have higher expectations that we're going to be able to live up to, because I think we're just picking out of our minds right now.
I think we do even better. Before we talk about the week in review, let's get you guys statted up. All right, guys. Dak Prescott finishes as your QB1 this week. First quarterback all season. It took to week 10 for someone to finally repeat as QB1, but Dak gets it done. Well done, Dak. He killed it. You can't take anything away from the guy. He absolutely dominated this week. Gets 5 touchdowns, and we'll talk more about this in the specific game. 5 touchdown performance, 4 passing, 1 running. Absolutely ridiculous. When we talk about the stats in the QB room, look, only QB1, only 2 times has the QB1 actually shown up on the following week's list. All right, so that means all the other weeks, whoever finished as QB1 didn't even make the top 10 list the week after. So Dak Prescott number 1 this week. Will he make the top 10 list next week? Stats say no. We'll find out. 7 QBs over 300 yards this week. Dak was the only one that got over 400. 7 QBs had run touchdowns. 4 QBs had 3 or more touchdowns. We know Dak had 5. 6 quarterbacks this week had 2 interceptions. T-Law, Mack, and DeVito all got sacked 5 times this week. Zach Wilson was your leading quarterback rusher with 54 yards. And I'm going to talk about this Mac Jones stat when we get to the game. Because it's interesting. This is the first season. Oh, wait, I want the quarterbacks. Give me them quarterbacks. We just talked about all those quarterbacks, so we're good. So we can get to the running back room. Boom. Running backs. There we go. Brian Robinson. That's what I want. Brian Robinson finished as your running back number 1. Same thing with the quarterbacks. Only 2 times has your running back 1 even made the list the following week. So finishing at RB1, chances are you're not making the list next week. It only happened twice. Brian Robinson actually hasn't been on this list since week 2. Where did he finish? Number 1. The guy only does number 1. He just only does it every 8 weeks or so. But he finishes number 1. The interesting thing here, of course, is that Brian Robinson only had like 38 rush yards. He did 119 yards on receptions. We'll get more into that into the game. But Brian Robinson does finish as your running back 1. In week 10, 6 running backs, only 6 got over 100 yards. Of those 6 running backs, only 2 of them actually made the top 10 list. So 4 running backs over 100 yards didn't even make the top 10 running back list. B-Rob, of course, did it through the air. 6 running backs had a touchdown reception this week. 3 of those made your top 10 list. 6 running backs had 16 running backs had rushing touchdowns this week. Only Gibbs had 2 touchdowns this week. Gibbs is the only one with multiple touchdowns this week. First week, CMC gets 0 touchdowns, and 2 Steeler running backs make the top 10. You can see down there at 8 and 9. Pretty phenomenal. Pretty happy about that. We got a nice stat here, and I want to show this from Ben Holloway at Ben DTS Podcast. Pittsburgh Steelers have been outgained in total yardage for all 9 games, every single game this year. They've been outscored by 26 points. The Chargers have outscored their opponents by 24 points over the season. Steelers are 6-3. Chargers are 4-5. That's a nice stat. Thanks for that, Ben, helping us get all statted up on the day. Also in the running back room, first week all season without a new name on the running back list. We had a couple new names on the quarterback list. Dak Prescott becomes the first quarterback to finish twice. We know that. 6 QBs now have 3 games, a 3-game streak or more. Hurts has 8. QB1 has only appeared on the list 2 times. Back into the running back room. Sorry about that slide being out of order. 43 different running backs have now made the top 10 list, with Singletary, Warren, and Harris showing up for the first time. CMC stands alone, 7 visits on the top 10. Brian Robinson, the only one to finish number 1 twice. So Dak finishes number 1 twice. Brian Robinson finishes number 1 twice. It's now happened same week. Took 10 weeks to get it done. Eckler, CMC, and White are the only running backs with an active streak. And actually, White got bumped last night. So actually, Eckler and CMC are the only backs with streaks out of all the running backs in the NFL. Eckler has 3, and of course CMC has 7. Into the wide receiver room, Keenan Allen finishes at number 1. Keenan Allen is not only the only wide receiver to finish at number 1 more than once, he's done it 3 times. This is his 3rd time out of the 4 times being on the list. Of course, CeeDee Lamb has made this list the last 3 weeks, been in the top 2 the last 3 weeks. CeeDee Lamb absolutely destroying. Actually got outgained by Cooks this week, but we'll talk about that. 5 times wide receiver 1 has not made the list, so a little more even on this one. Tank Dell, we talked about wide receiver 1 last week, did not make the list this week, though. 2 Dallas wide receivers on the list with Lamb and Cooks. 2 Bengal wide receivers on the list, as we see with Chase and Boyd there. Keenan Allen, we talked about, the only one to repeat. Also the only one to get over 40 fantasy points 2 times. No one else has gotten over 40 more than once. 24 wide receivers had a receiving touchdown this year. Lamb and Debo are the only 2 receivers that had a rush touchdown. Only Allen and Lamb had 2 touchdowns this week. It's kind of interesting to think about all the receiving touchdowns there are, and only 2 touchdowns. Only 2 receivers, Lamb and Allen, had multiple touchdowns, and actually Lamb ran one of those in. So take that for what it's worth. 5 wide receivers over 150. 3 of those were over 170. Allen, Cooks, and Noah Brown. And whoo, man, that was a lot. It was a lot, and it's going to come up. A lot of that's going to come back during the show, but you are now all set. Woo, man, that's a lot of stats, Adam. But there they are. What do you think about all that? That's a lot to digest there. I understand.
Yeah, I mean, it's a theme we've talked about several times, with like the lack of like repeating. Like it's been difficult for players to repeat as number 1 unless your name's Keenan Allen, apparently.
Yeah.
Or even getting consistently in the top 10 week over week. Like especially with like the running backs and wide receivers that we're seeing, the top 10 looks completely different each week, and I think that's just a testament to teams are not focusing that much on singular players anymore. They're more shifting towards the scheme, right? Like how can the offensive scheme beat the defensive scheme? And it's not necessarily forcing it to your best players anymore. When they do force it to the best players is in the big moments, right? When you need a play, you need a guy to make a play, you're throwing it up to Chase. You're going to Keenan Allen, like you're going to guys like that. But this new system is probably great for the NFL, but it's probably going to create more challenges moving forward over the next few years for fantasy football.
I'll tell you who it's not great for, and that's for fantasy players. You get your lack of consistency. It's hard to, get something going when nobody's even streaking. Nobody's putting back-to-back weeks together. ETN gets his streak snapped at the top of the list. I mean, it's just there's a lot of moving parts, and it's really hard to put something together when your wide receivers and everybody else honestly is so inconsistent. AJ Brown is still on a 4-game streak because he was on the bye. Lamb, of course, is in a 3-game streak that we talked about, finishing top 3 games in a row. But like I said, 49 different wide receivers have made the list in 10 games. That just kind of shows you how it goes. Running backs are looking the same. We can talk more about that as we go over each game this week briefly, but it's all still important during the Fantasy Rewind. We're going to go back and look at week 10 game by game. We're not going to take all day because we know that you guys know, but there is important things that need to be gone over. So starting on Thursday night, Carolina and Chicago in a game that no one probably watched, and for good reason, because no QB threw for over 200 yards, no running back rushed for over 100 yards, no wide receiver got over 60 yards. Both teams sit firmly in last place. The Chicago win actually helps them with the number 1 overall pick, because we know that they get Carolina's pick. So by keeping Carolina in the basement, they actually increase their chances of getting the number 1 pick. And then, of course, they're sitting in the basement themselves. So that 1-2, 1-3 pick scenario is looking fantastic after this ugly win.
Yeah, and this was a game that we mentioned last week, that it literally means nothing to the landscape of the NFL. Neither of these teams have any shot of making it to the playoffs, and whether the Bears win or lose, it helps their draft case either way because they own the Panthers pick. So there was no way to spin this game as an important one for the NFL season, but with fantasy, that doesn't matter, right? Fantasy, every game's important because there's always players to target, so even when it's 2 bottom-dwelling teams, there's still guys to talk about like Chuba Hubbard, like DJ Moore. There's always fantasy options regardless of the team's playing.
Absolutely. I did find that stat interesting, that Chicago's win actually helped them get the first pick, because, you finished with the worst record, but they put a notch in the win column, but it actually helps towards getting that first pick. So that was kind of cool. Head off to Germany, Indianapolis versus New England. Again, kind of a sleeper in this one. No passing touchdowns in this entire game. Again, no quarterbacks above 200. No running backs over 100. Hell, no running backs over 90 yards. No wide receivers over 85. Every quarterback that came into the game, and there were 3 of them, they all threw interceptions in this one. We know that Mac got pulled. The interesting here with Mac is that he goes 15 for 20. All right. He actually finished number 3 in percentage. He has 75% percentage rate, was number 3 in the NFL, number 2 for starters, because Cooper Rush was one of the guys ahead of him. Russell Wilson, we'll talk about him with an over 80%. Crazy. Mac Jones goes 170, 15 for 20 over 170. All right. He got sacked 5 times. He had his interception. And then they bring in Billy Zapp, who immediately throws an interception and ruins the game. And you saw Belichick just like, what am I supposed to do? I can't make these guys good. JT finishes at RB 15. Ramondre Stevenson finishes RB 18. Really, I mean, there's Pittman Jr. finished at wide receiver 15. That was the best for anybody in this game at wide receiver. Again, another game that really meant nothing for anybody other than the fact that they let your players let you down if you played them.
Yeah, I mean, we knew coming into this year that there was quarterback problems in New England, but like if they had any question within their organization, I think it's definitely set in stone now. We saw Bill O'Brien, offensive coordinator, lose his mind over Mac Jones during that game. He's seen enough of it. We know Bill's seen enough of it. Like at this point, like they really shouldn't do anything with quarterback. Yeah, like just let Mac Jones keep playing at this point because he's going to help them get a great draft pick. He's basically going to help himself get replaced by a better quarterback because he's just going to keep losing.
Absolutely, it's freaking embarrassing. Houston and Cincinnati. We saw Houston take down Cincinnati. at the beginning of the season, obviously, we did not make this call. Maybe as the season's gone on, I'm sure that the odds makers probably gave Houston a chance. I know we all gave Houston a chance, but to see it actually happen was crazy. Complete opposite of the first two games. Both quarterbacks go over 345. All right. They both went huge. Stroud 356, Burrow 347. Both had interceptions. Burrow had two, but Stroud had a sack. Burrow got sacked 5 times. Again, he's one of your 5 quarterbacks, or one of your quarterbacks got sacked 5 times. Sitting at 22 on the year. Pretty crazy. Singletary gets 30 carries, 150 yards, and a touchdown. Finishes your RB1. Mixon 46 and a touchdown. Like we talked about, Noah Brown getting just it's just whoever comes in. Reminds you of the Patriots back, and whoever comes in is just going to get made to look good. 7 for 172 for wide receiver number 6. Hulse goes 5 for 124 for wide receiver number 7. Gets that touchdown. Game-winning field goal as time expires. Burrow QB7, Stroud QB9. We talked about Singletary. Actually finishes RB3. Sorry about that. Noah Brown went at 6. Dell actually gets bumped to wide receiver 13. But it wasn't for lack of chances. He had 14 targets. He only caught 6 of them. So, I take that for what it's worth as well. And we talked about 2 Bengal wide receivers in the top 10 in Chase at 7, Boyd at number 10. This was just a fantasy bonanza. If you have people in this one, you made money. And it was everything that we hoped for in this game. Once the season started, we never saw this at the beginning, before the season started.
Yeah, I mean, everybody showed up for fantasy, this was one of those games where, we both believed you got to play kind of everybody in this game. And usually in that situation, there's 1 or 2 who really let you down. I don't think anybody really let you down in this game. They all showed up and performed pretty well. But this game itself, what an awesome game this was. Back and forth, momentum swings left and right. 2 elite quarterbacks dueling it out back and forth. And look, let's be honest here. Stroud out-burrowed Burrow. He really did.
He really did.
That's the kind of game that Burrow wins every time, right? When he gets in those duels like that, he pretty much always wins when it's against even Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. When they get in those shootouts, back and forth swing kind of games, it's been Burrow's trademark, and it's been why the Bengals have been staples deep in playoff runs over the last couple years, because they win those games. Well, Stroud's here, man. He's here.
Well, and the thing is, Stroud gets sacked 1 time, Burrow gets sacked 5 times. Stroud has 1 interception, Burrow has 2 interceptions. And that's going to be the difference, honestly, when it comes down to it. The defense showed up. Obviously nobody played anybody in Houston, Damian Pierce. So you're fine there. You were smart enough to play Singletary if you played him. But even, people said, don't play Singletary. Don't play him this week. He's not playing Cincinnati defense. And he ends up as RB3 again, 150 yards and a touchdown. I hope you played him. I'd love to see the roster if you did, just so you can brag about it a little bit. Because, man, wow. Speaking of wow, New Orleans and Minnesota, Dobbs shows up again, gets the win, and it's not the numbers. The numbers are not 268 and a touchdown. He did have an 88.2 QBR, which is pretty fantastic. It's the fact that this is his second game there. He rushes one in. It was a fantastic play. He looked beautiful rushing it in, jumps in the air to do it. Dobbs just looks fantastic. It's not about the numbers. It's about the skill set. It's about the way he looks. Winston and Carr combined for only 215. Winston goes 122, 2 touchdowns, but has the 2 picks. He was trying, but at the end of the game, those 2 picks, he just threw them up, and it was easy. Both quarterbacks there finished sub 35 QBR. No running back over 50 yards in this one. No wide receiver over 100. Olave came close with 94. Hawkinson destroyed 11 for 134 and a touchdown. Tight end 1, obviously playing hurt. He got so banged up. I saw Hawkinson's just a player. He's a warrior. He is a soldier. Kamara does finish at RB9. However, it didn't take a lot to make the list this week. We'll talk about that later. Madison at RB 41. Olave wide receiver 9. No one else gets closer than wide receiver 30. And again, the numbers don't do justice. Dobbs is here to play, and he is getting it done. Minnesota real lucky at the quarterback position.
Yeah, and I mean, like you mentioned Hawkinson, like he's been unbelievable this year. He's been the best tight end to own this year. He had another huge game here. He seems to do it every week. He's having a Kelsey-like season as a tight end this year. He's been unreal. And when it comes to Dobbs, like he's kind of in this funny situation now where like he keeps doing this every week, and then we keep like being surprised, like, wow, look at Josh Dobbs. Like I feel like as a whole, like the NFL world, we haven't accepted that maybe this is just who Josh Dobbs is. He's a baller. He's a gamer. He's going to put up big numbers. Yet every week he's the storyline of like, wow, look at Josh Dobbs. Look at this performance he's doing. Like he's supposed to be like some feel-good story or something, but like I think he's past that. Like he's done enough now. I think that he could be a mid-level starting quarterback.
Josh Dobbs is not surprised. Josh Dobbs is not surprised at this at all. He's the only one. I want to see if I can get this picture that I saw today. Let me share this pic that I saw. Where is it? There it is. Share that for you. There you go. I mean, I'm just good. I'm just good. There it is. It's a nice. I mean, I don't know if we need to compare Dobbs to Michael Jordan already, but give credit where credit's due.
Another thing too with Dobbs, he has one of the great nicknames in the NFL now. Also, whoever came up with calling Dobbs the Pastronaut, that is fantastic.
Pastronaut. I hadn't heard that, and it's fantastic. It's definitely one of the better nicknames in there for sure. I love it. Green Bay and Pittsburgh again. Pittsburgh Sketty setting them up, and they get it done. Not a horrible day. 289, 2 touchdowns. He just had those 2 picks. Pickett completes 14 passes all day. That's it. 126 yards all day. That's it. It was enough. Pittsburgh walks off with the win. No one else really did anything amazing except for your Pittsburgh running back room, which is mind-blowing. Both running backs make the top 10. 101 and a tutty for Warren, 82 and a tutty for Harris. That's really about it. Defense saved the day. They showed up in the second half. They really showed up in the fourth quarter and got it done where they needed to get it done. Love actually finished at QB 12, way ahead of Pickens. And let's give a little credit to TJ Watt. He passes his brother, I believe, for number 2 on the sack list, half a sack ahead of his brother. It was kind of funny. I was watching Red Zone. They had originally given TJ half a sack, which would have tied him with JJ, and then they went in and switched it, like right there on the screen. They're like, you know what, let's give him the sack. So it put him a half a sack ahead. Not an amazing game to watch, but Pittsburgh still gets it done, like I said.
Look, Steelers being the Steelers, grinding out another victory as they've done all year, as they've done for many years. And look, like this is who Pickett is now. He's not a great quarterback, okay? And it usually plays very underwhelming for 3/4 of every game, but he shows up in the fourth quarter. He elevates his play as it gets late in the game, and when he needs to make that big throw or put together that big drive to go win a game, he gets it done. And that's something that you can't teach. You can teach him how to be a better quarterback in the first 3, but you can't teach clutch. You either have that or you don't have that, and Kenny Pickett has it.
And right now it's enough with the schedule that they got. Tampa Bay over Tennessee. Mayfield goes 278-2, ends up as QB 10. Look at White. I mean, White is finally showing up. He's stunk all year long. Finishes at running back 11, just gets bumped. 51 rush yards, but 47 receiving yards for that touchdown. And that's really the difference, is that Tampa, he's finally doing what he was supposed to do, and that's emerged as a pass catching back, and he's being effective at it. And that's what took a while to finally get going, but now that it's working, we see the success that's coming from it. Evans, 143 and a touchdown, finishes your wide receiver 5. So you got 3 players, one at each position, finishing in the top 11. Nothing from Tampa. Levis goes 199. Henry only with 24 rush yards. Each team got 3 sacks, and it was really kind of who could beat the other one's defense. Tampa Bay got it done.
Yeah, I mean, Rashad White quietly over these last few weeks, and I mean, you nailed it. It's as a receiver. And that's what people this offseason who liked Rashad White going into fantasy draft season was because of the receiving upside was one of the big things. And the fact that he doesn't have a true backup behind him that's going to like challenge his workload, right? Like those are the two things to like about White. He's gotten the workload all year. He just hasn't done anything with the workload. But over the past few weeks, he's getting those catches and he's being productive with them. And then look, every week, I mean, it's just the Mike Evans show, right? I mean, every game, like his entire career, regardless of who's playing quarterback, regardless of the defense he's facing, regardless of the other weapons in the offense, he just produces all the time. Like, how can you not love Mike Evans?
I absolutely love Mike Evans. I have him every single year in fantasy. I buy all shares of Mike Evans, and
And he gets undervalued every year in fantasy, it feels like, too.
He's always there.
Him and Keenan Allen. They always get undervalued, and then they always end up being a top 5 or 10 wide receiver at the end of the season. And then the next year, everyone's like, oh, well, they're going to regress now, and this and that, and the other thing. And it's like, yeah, but you've been saying that for 5 years, right?
All shares of Mike Evans. I get him every year. I've never drafted him above round 3. I probably have never drafted him around 4. I know I've never drafted him above round 3. Never regret that decision. San Francisco beats Jacksonville, beats them handily. You talk about your boy Lawrence. He did not look good at all. Etienne snaps his 4-game streak of being in the top 10. T-Law only goes for 185, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. It was just bad on the Jacksonville side. Kirk does get one over 100. He gets 6 for 104, but he did lose a fumble. It's Jacksonville just looked horrible. San Francisco asserted their dominance, and we'll see what happens later on when they meet again in the playoffs. Brock Purdy back to form, 296, 3 touchdowns, QB6 on the day, no interceptions. We talked about CMC, huge factor as he's been every game. First game without a touchdown this year, finishes as RB6, still gets 95 yards. No wide receiver in this game got over 55, but Kittle got 116 and a touchdown. 5 sacks for San Francisco. It was just a bad day for Jacksonville. It was an awesome day for San Francisco. It was in Jacksonville, and so that was like the big takeaway there is that San Francisco did this. And just on a side note, Zay Jones arrested for domestic violence. Hasn't really been a factor this year. Not sure how long he'll even be with the team, depending on these charges, but that came down as well. Not good news at all this weekend for Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily surprising that the Jags lost this game. I mean, the Jags entered it on a 5-game winning streak. The 49ers entered it on a 3-game losing streak. You kind of figured those streaks had to end at some point. And we kind of mentioned it with the Niners that their bye came at the perfect time, exactly when they needed it. 3-game skid. Purdy's been throwing interceptions. The teams look kind of lost. And they weren't healthy, right? Debo's been banged up. Trent Williams has been out. McCaffrey's playing through a rib issue. They had some injuries. That extra week to rest up, to reset after the 3-game losing skid, they didn't just solve it. They came out and made a statement to remind everybody that they're still at the top.
And this is and that's really the thing. It's not even as much that Jacksonville's offense was horrible against the San Francisco. It's that San Francisco just beat up on Jacksonville's defense. I mean, they just had their way with them. Debo ran one in. Purdy threw for 3. I mean, they just had their way, and that, to me, is as big a problem as the offensive problem, the fact that San Francisco is going to run through your deep. Because when we get to playoff time, that's when defensive has to step up. They're going to have to fix that before they meet again. Cleveland beats Baltimore in a last-second field goal as well. Barn burner down to the wire. Baltimore not nearly as effective as they were last time. Lamar, just really doesn't great. Lamar actually had more pass yards than Watson. Cleveland comes out with it. Ford, 107. Mitchell, 34-1. So Mitchell gets his touchdown, but Baltimore on the stat sheet outperformed Cleveland, but Cleveland walks away with the win. Cooper only had 98. I said don't play Flowers, and he catches 5 for 73, wide receiver 28. Lamar is under 15 points the last 3 weeks after having a nice run on the list. 2 touchdowns over his last 3 games. That's it. Only 2. 2 interceptions this week. He had 4 in week 7. He had 4 against Cleveland last time. They just couldn't get it done. Cleveland's defense stepped up. It wasn't pretty, as the AFC North ever is, and Cleveland goes into Baltimore and gets the win. A much-needed win, helped everybody else out except Baltimore. And, of course, Cincinnati, because they lost.
Yeah, and I mean, the Ravens didn't just outperform the Browns. They completely dominated them for almost that entire game. Like, if you're a Ravens player or coach, like, you're sitting at home after that game, like, how the hell did we lose that one? How did that happen? And if you're a Ravens fan, you're obviously just sick to your stomach after what happened in that game, because there's no way they should have lost that game with the way they played versus the way the Browns played. But they literally gave it to them at the end. And short week for the Ravens too. So it's going to be interesting to see on Thursday if I'm sure they're eager to get back on the field and try to get that bad taste out of their mouth. But back-to-back division games in a very tight division race coming up on Thursday, Ravens-Bengals. Ravens got to win that one if they want to keep their control of this division. If the Bengals beat the Ravens on Thursday, this division gets very, very interesting.
Extremely interesting, and I think Cincinnati's going to get it done. Arizona comes out for the win. I mean, they just did. Murray was ready. He was rusty. His numbers, weren't amazing. 249, no touchdowns, but he did have the rushing touchdown with the 33 rush yards. Ritter and Heineke combined for 94 pass yards. They combined for 94 pass yards. No quarterbacks over 100. Two quarterbacks together couldn't get over 100 yards passing. I mean, that's how bad the Falcons played. Bijan finally shows up for you, gets 95 and a tutty, RB12. Connor had 73. Drake London had 3 catches, but one of them was like, highlight reel. It was an amazing catch. But they just couldn't get anything done. They could not get anything done. The Falcons could get nothing going. McBride goes for 131. Kyler Murray hitting that tight end as his outlet and, saves the day. Again, Murray gets the win. That's all anybody's going to hear out of this entire game. People are going to miss out the fact the Falcons couldn't even get 100 receiving or 100 pass yards because Murray came back and he won. That's all anybody really cares about.
Yeah, I mean, Murray's timing was definitely off. His accuracy was definitely off. That's, not a big surprise. He's very rusty. He hasn't played in a while. But if you're a Cardinals fan or a Kyler Murray fan, the most encouraging thing besides the win is he was running around like his old self, and he hasn't lost a step. The speed's still there, the agility, the athleticism. He looked like vintage Kyler Murray, minus all the errant throws, right? But they came away with the win, and now all of a sudden, like, the Cardinals have become a confusing team now, right? Like, are they bottom of the barrel anymore with Kyler Murray, who can be a good quarterback when he's at his best? It's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out from a fantasy perspective, too, with guys like Hollywood Brown. You mentioned Trey McBride over the last 3 weeks. He's been unbelievable as a tight end. Him and Hawkinson are just like, the 2 tight ends to own right now. And when it comes to the Falcons, their quarterback situation is an absolute disaster. And what makes it worse is that they're not going to be bad enough this year to go get one of the top quarterbacks in the draft either. They're stuck in the worst case scenario in the NFL, and that's being in the middle of the pack, as a team, because you're not bad enough that you can revamp and rebuild and do that kind of stuff. And you're not good enough that you're going to make any noise in the playoffs. So maybe they're a player for some kind of veteran quarterback who might be available during the offseason. Like if the Vikings move on from Cousins, or Ryan Tannehill maybe goes back with Arthur Smith. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback, but we're not going to see Desmond Ritter again next year. I can't believe.
I don't know. I don't know if they have any choice. They have to fix it. And I don't know. I mean, Ritter he's shown flash. Detroit.
Do they call Matt Ryan and ask him to come back to Atlanta? I mean,
he ain't coming. But they're going to have to go get somebody. They're going to have to get somebody who's available. They can go get Zach Wilson. He'll probably be available. Detroit at the Chargers.
Who knows? Yeah.
Detroit at the Chargers. We said play everybody, and we were absolutely right. You guys do this anyway. Both quarterbacks go over 300. Goff finishes at QB 8, 332 and 2 touchdowns. Herbert finishes at QB 2, 373 and 4 touchdowns to his one interception. Monty gets 116 and a touchdown, finishes at RB11, just outside the top 10. Gibbs goes 77 for 2 touchdowns. Only running back to score 2 touchdowns this week is Gibbs. Eckler, 18 carries for 67 and a touchdown, plus his 7 receptions for 48 yards makes him RB4. Keenan Allen, of course, 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. This guy could not be stopped. Allen and Lamb, the only one with double reception games at 11 each. St. Brown, 156 and 1. St. Brown is for real. Let's run through that one more time real quick. Goff, 333. Herbert, 373. Monty, 116 and a tutty. Gibbs, 77 and 2. Eckler, RB4. Keenan Allen, 175. St. Brown, 156. This was a fantasy treasure trove. This was a bonanza. This was just fantasy points raining down from the heavens. Detroit, 3 rush touchdowns, 2 pass touchdowns. The Chargers with 4 pass downs and a run touchdown. Eckler was wide receiver 2. That's your problem with 48 yards. But fantasy-wise, you had no problem with this game. Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, everybody showed up in fantasy, like you said, which isn't, super surprising, I guess, for the Lions, because the Chargers' defense has been an absolute disaster all year. I mean, maybe if you're a Lions fan, you're a little concerned that you gave up like 40 points. But look, the Chargers...
They've been doing that all year, though.
Yeah, but I mean, wasn't this the most Chargers game ever? They're going to dominate on the stat sheet. Another one-score game. They score basically 40 points, and they lose. That's the Chargers for you.
That's the Chargers. That's life as a Chargers fan for you. That's what they have to deal with. I mean, you can't be a Bears fan or a Jets fan where you're just used to losing, used to getting dominated every week. You got to be a Chargers fan where you're used to just throwing up massive points, massive numbers, and still walking away with the L. That would not be a fun life. I'm glad I don't live it.
Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Justin Herbert. 3 pretty good quarterbacks for the Chargers, but they don't win with any of them.
None. Dallas at the Giants. I want to get this game in for you. It was disgusting. Dallas dominated, destroyed. Giants absolutely embarrassed on the field. Giants came with nothing. DeVito had 86 pass yards. 86. Barkley had 66 run yards. None of their wide receivers even got more than 35 yards, which makes sense since DeVito didn't get 86. On the other side of the ball, Prescott had the best game of his life. Over 400 yards, 5 touchdowns total. Threw 4, ran 1 just for fun. Dowdy goes for 12 for 79 and a touchdown. We know what Lamb did. 151, caught 1, ran 1. Brandon Cooks. This is the game that they got him for. 173 and a touchdown. Actually outperformed Lamb. Didn't outrank him, but yardage-wise, outperformed him. That second touchdown keeps Lamb above Cooks. Dallas's defense absolutely dominated. Prescott with a 5 touchdown. We can talk about this all day. The concerning factor, of course, is that Pollard goes 15 for 55, finishes at RB42, but Dowdy picks up the slack. Lamb picks up the slack. Prescott picks up the slack. We mentioned it at the beginning of the show. Dallas needed to win this game in this way. We knew they were going to win, but they needed to win it just like this. They did exactly what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, it was a confidence-boosting, type of win, that everything's kind of working on offense. And anything the Cowboys wanted to do, they did it, both offensively and defensively. Look, I mean, over the last 3 weeks or so, Dak and CD is probably the best quarterback wide receiver tandem in the NFL. I mean, look at the numbers they're putting up in fantasy. They are absolutely destroying it. Like this isn't just they played the Giants, so they had a great game. No, they've been doing that against everybody lately. They did it against the Eagles also last week. So this is what they're doing now. They kind of shifted their offense to, instead of trying to force feed Tony Pollard and make him an elite running back, let's be honest, he's been one of the biggest disappointments this season. He had such high expectations and such high projections. He has not lived up to them at all. So props to Mike McCarthy, right? Mike McCarthy said, look, that's not working. Let's change what we're doing. a lot of times old school coaches like that get too stubborn. They want to just stick with what they want to do and like keep doing it until hopefully it works. So
New York
look,
Jets.
I've had my issues with McCarthy along the way. I think he's doing an excellent job this season. Remember, he's the one calling the plays now. This is his
Yeah.
first year in Dallas that he's calling the plays, and he recognized again that force feeding Pollard's not working. So let's switch it up. Let's throw it to the best player on our team, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. If Pollard's not getting it done, let's just go to CeeDee Lamb every play.
And you said it. I mean, every Dallas fan. Oh, great! McCarthy's calling the plays. Geez,
Yep.
things weren't bad enough. It's worked out. Dallas fans having to eat a little crow on that one because he's getting it done.
For sure.
He's making the
Myself
necessary
included.
adjustments.
Yep.
Yeah, it's working. Washington, Seattle ekes out the win, but Geno bounces back. That's really the takeaway for Seattle in this one. Geno 369 and 2 touchdowns. Oh, it was nasty. QB5 as where he finishes up. Howell is now your fantasy QB3 overall. QB4 on the week, QB3 overall. Sam Howell, the same guy that we all said, what? WTF, what the hell's going on? They're tanking the season. They're not even going to try. Sam Howell, there's no way this guy can win. Fantasy QB3 on the season. 312 and 3, another 3 touchdowns for him. B-Rob, we talked about it, finishes as your RB1, not because of the 38 rush yards, but because of the 119 reception yards. Ridiculous. 119 reception yards. And he had like almost a 20-yard per catch rate. I think it was like on 5 catches. It was ridiculous. 3 others with 40, only one good receiver. Metcalf gets 98, though. Lockett gets 92. It was great for the Seattle side. It was a great game for Howell, fantasy-wise. And they really competed. They played. They played with Seattle. They played with Seattle's defense. Washington's defense did everything they could. Walker and Charbonnet only combined for 107, but they didn't need it. And walk-off field goal, Seattle wins, and we get to say Geno's back, Seattle's back. They're back in the conversation. It wasn't pretty. They needed the win. They got it done.
Yeah, I mean, that's Pete Carroll football, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot like I said with the Steelers, grind it out. Don't make too many mistakes. Give yourself a chance in the end, and I'm going to trust my guys more than I trust your guys. That's been the Pete Carroll way kind of forever. It's a formula that works for him. It worked again this week. And look, I mean, you said it with Sam Howell. I was on record on this show saying before the year started when we talked about the Commanders that I believe that they are tanking. I said by them naming Sam Howell their starting quarterback, this is a subtle tank, new owners coming in. Ron Rivera is probably getting fired at the end of this year. All the changes in Washington, they're trying to tank and go get one of those top quarterbacks. I guess I was dead wrong. I guess Sam Howell is a much better player than I gave him any credit for. He's been fantastic this year.
That's why we talk about the football and they do the football. We talk about the things that they do. The Jets in Las Vegas, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. Las Vegas ekes one out against the Jets. The defense did absolutely everything they could. The Jets offense, as usual, did everything they could to lose. Look, Garrett Wilson showed up 9 for 93, did what he could. Hall did not. Again, finishes with 28 yards. Wilson is actually their leading rusher at 54 because he's running for his life back there. He's got the interceptions, 260. Zach Wilson, I feel bad for Zach Wilson. He's number 2 in sacks. He's been sacked 33 times. So aside from the fact that he's not the elite quarterback everybody wanted him to be, I mean, at least he might be able to play. We have seen flashes. We've seen fantasy numbers. We've seen him have decent games, have good drives. But when you're back there running for your life, it's really hard to do that. And he's only got 6 interceptions on the year. He's also only got 5 touchdowns, and that's because he has 33 sacks. He's number 2 in sacks. Sam Howell still owns a record on that one, which is even more amazing that Sam Howell sitting at fantasy QB number 3 or QB3 overall, being the most sacked quarterback in the league. But Joe Burrow's done that too. But Zach Wilson, 33 sacks, and they don't win. Am I surprised? Someone had to win that game, I guess, and so Las Vegas gets it at home. But, Zach Wilson, I just feel bad for the guy, honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
I'm done feeling bad for Zach Wilson. I mean, there's enough of a sample size on this guy. It's been 3 years now. Like it's been 3 years with Zach Wilson. I think he's more than proven that he's not a starting quarterback in the
well, that's why I
NFL.
feel
I
bad
know
for
the
him.
Jets situation is bad, and he gets pressured a lot, and this and that, and whatever, and but so do a lot of other quarterbacks, and they don't look as bad as Zach Wilson. Zach
Well, no,
Wilson,
that's
by
what
the
I
way,
mean.
yeah, third
Zach
year in a
Wilson.
row that Zach Wilson ranks dead last in the NFL in quarterback rating. Dead
Yeah,
last 3 years
dead
in a row.
last. But that's what I
Dead
feel
last.
bad about him
That's
because they
never
keep
been
marching
done
him out there.
before. By the way, that's never been done before in NFL history. He's the first quarterback ever in NFL history to do that. He's
Well, there you
bad.
go.
And you know who else is bad, by the way? And what these last two games tell us? Josh McDaniels is a really bad head coach because you get rid of him, all of a sudden the Raiders look confident. They're doing it with Aiden O'Connell at quarterback, and they're 2-0 with a coach who's never been a head coach or a coordinator before in his entire life.
I love you, Harbaugh. But that's why I feel bad for Zach Wilson. I'm glad you bring that up. So at least Zach Wilson gets something. You're the best at being the worst. You are fantastic at being horrible. But that's why I feel bad, because he's not good, and they keep marching him out there to get berated every week. They know he's not good. They have no other options, so they stick him out there. They've been doing it for 3 years. They know exactly what's going to happen. For 3 years, they've allowed this guy to just get the crap beat out of him by the media and us and everybody else, and he just has to take it. He can't. What's he supposed to do? He's like, I got sacked 33 times. Does anybody care? No, nobody cares. All anybody cares is that I have the worst quarterback rating. I get sacked over 30 times in 10 games. What am I supposed to do? Like, give me a chance to at least throw the ball like everybody else. I can at least be as good as Mac Jones. Shit.
Right. But, some of those are his fault, too. He holds the
Damn.
ball way too long. He second guesses himself all the time. When you watch the guy play, he looks left, he looks right, he looks left, he starts scrambling around. You can't do that, especially when you're not Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes. When you're a mediocre to bad quarterback, it is important to get the ball out as quick as possible. The longer you have it, the more likely you are to make mistakes, take sacks, throw interceptions. Zach's just not doing himself any favors either, in my opinion.
Well, but we knew that. And he knew that.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be out there. I don't care what anybody says. That kid does not want to be out there. Getting the crap beat out of him, making bad decisions, showcasing just how bad he is for the last 3 years. Nobody wants to do that. I know I'm bad. Don't put me back out there. Please, bench me. Please. I suck. I gotta sit there. Even you guys tell me how bad I am, and yet you still march me out there every week. There's got to be a point where we got to blame the coaching staff a little bit. Be like, if he's so bad,
sure.
which he is, then put literally anybody else out there. Take the punter and make him play quarterback at this point.
I'm just curious whose decision this is. Is this Woody Johnson's decision? Is this Joe Douglas's decision? Or is it Robert Saleh? And they have brought in no quarterbacks at all. And Robert Saleh, in every press conference he takes, says there is zero chance that we're ever benching Zach Wilson. He is our guy this year. We believe in him, this and that and whatever. But again, whose decision is that? Because one of those three, right, is the one saying, I'm sticking with Zach, or you have to stick with Zach, or whatever it may be. Who's calling that shot? And, what are they really getting at it at this point?
Well, they're trying to get a quarterback. And the thing is they can't even get into last place because the Patriots are sucking so bad. So they're still 2 games ahead of the Patriots. But they're trying to get that draft pick. And Zach Wilson's the one that has to sit there and deal with it all. Denver beats Buffalo last night, and that walk-off field goal takes 2 chances to get it because Buffalo they screwed the pooch all game long. They just mistake after mistake after mistake. If you watched it, you heard the commentary. It was 100% spot on. They shouldn't even have been in that game. I honestly am not – that's – to me, I'm spinning it. I'm doing the silver lining thing. The fact that Buffalo is even in that game is a testament to how good they can be because they shouldn't have been. So many mistakes. And what Aikman said it was supposed to happen happened at the end of this game. Buffalo made so many mistakes. There's no way they should have been allowed to win that game, and they were not. Both QBs under 200 yards. There's no stats here. Javonte Williams gets 79 and gets a receiving touchdown. Cook 109 yards, still finishes at RB23. Murray gets your touchdown, RB16. Sutton is your highest receiver, 8 for 153 and a touchdown, 17.3 points. Buffalo mistakes everywhere. But I do want to bring up real quick is Wilson. Wilson goes 24 for 29, has an 82.8% completion percentage, number one in the year. This is the stat I want to bring up. Wilson has missed 9 or fewer passes in every game since week 4, aside when he played for the Jets because he missed 11 against the Jets. But since week 4, 11 is the most passes he's missed, and he only did that once. Other than that, it's been 9 or fewer. The guy's percentage rate is through the roof. The win rate is starting to show it. Denver heating up a little bit. They talk about catching fire. I don't know about catching fire, but there's smoke. And where there's smoke, there's usually going to be fire. There's at least smoke in Denver right now.
Well, look, I mean, the Broncos are kind of doing what I thought they would do before this year started. And when we did our Broncos preview show, I said that, look, adjusting to a new head coach is always going to take time. But give Russell Wilson some time with Sean Payton, which whether you like the guy or not, I know he's kind of, a tough personality to like, but he's still a great offensive coach and a great quarterback coach. And we talked about, too, with the Broncos, their schedule softens up in a lot of spots. And they were one of those teams that could struggle in the beginning of the year, but watch out for them in the second half. They're on the 3-game winning streak right now, and that's kind of starting to come true that we kind of got to talk about the Broncos now as right in the mix for a wild card.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they're coming around. That's how we had them finishing at the end of the season. We're going to see how it all plays out once we get down to the end. I know you're kind of on a schedule this week. I can hear you in the car. We appreciate you sticking around. If you need to hop off, let us know, and we'll do that.
Yeah, I just wanted to finish that review, kind of power through it real quick. But, yeah, I do have to take it out from here. You can solo it the rest of the way, but I will be back again next week, regular time, like we will be every week, no matter what.
Every week with NFL writer Adam Hulse. Adam, thank you as always for stopping by. We're all better because of it, and hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next week, man.
Thanks for having me every week. I love the show. I love doing it, and we'll be back next week.
We'll see you next week, Adam. Take care.
All right.
All right, everybody. And so we continue on through the show without Adam, but that's okay. We're going to get into the week coming up. Let's go. I still haven't made a slide for that. Probably do that every week. I said I'm going to do it. I haven't. Cincinnati and Baltimore opens up our weekly schedule this week. You're going to get fantasy points here. It's going to be an ugly game because it's an AFC North game. Again, we talked about last week. We had no quarterbacks over 200 yards. It was an ugly win. Baltimore statistically and on the game dominated this last game, and yet Cleveland comes out on top. Cincinnati really needs this win to come into Baltimore and do it as hard, but Cleveland did it, and I think Cincinnati can do it. Cincinnati's putting up stats. They got 2 wide receivers in the top 10 list this week. Of course, Burrow's in the top 10 list this week with the loss. It's going to be Baltimore's defense versus Cincinnati's offense, and Cincinnati's been able to do it so far. So I like it. Play your Cincinnati guys. Play Lamar. Do not play Flowers. I pick a running back. I think you're going to be fine with Gus Edwards. Mitchell's going to get some carries, but I think Gus Edwards is going to be your guy at the running back position for this one. Obviously Chase, I don't know if you want to go, with the other receivers, Burrow, of course, your usual suspects in this one, but I don't know if you want to reach too far for this game. The phone lines are open, by the way. I neglected to mention that earlier. It says call in now because, hey, you can call in now. And we'll take your call on the show. Tell us about how your fantasy week went. Tell us about your start sits. Do whatever you like, or just leave something in the comments. Either way, that works for us too. But feel free to call in. We set it up. For you guys, and we love to do it. Next on the slate, Pittsburgh at Cleveland. Pittsburgh's schedule has been awesome. They've been living up to the hype so far. And Pittsburgh, it's Cleveland's defense. They're in Cleveland. Pittsburgh has found a way so far. This one might be a bit tougher to deal with. I think you can bring Pickett back. Actually, I don't think you can bring Pickett. I wouldn't play anybody in this game because Pittsburgh's defense, I mean, they are allowing yardage to wide receivers, but they're not allowing a lot of touchdowns to wide receivers. Deshaun Watson has really not looked great, really ever since he came back. We remember the Monday night game earlier this season between these two. It was a barn burner. That's where Ford got brought into the mix. It's not that you can't get numbers against Pittsburgh, and you can. The bye week this week actually sets up pretty nicely as really Indianapolis, Atlanta, New England, New Orleans. So you're not losing a ton of people there where you have to go play somebody in these games. You're going to play Cooper probably. You're going to play Ford. You can throw Hunt in there. I don't know about the Pittsburgh side if you really want to take your chance with Pickens against this Cleveland defense. Cleveland defense still fantastic against the pass. Shutting Baltimore down completely, shutting Flowers down completely. So I don't know if you want to do that. Bye weeks really don't force you into that. I think you can find plays somewhere else, especially obviously in your DFS schedule. Chicago at Detroit, love this game from fantasy perspective. I expect St. Brown and Goff and Gibbs to just have fantastic games. Monty's probably going to have a good game on the other side. Chicago Fields should be back, so you should play Fields again, and that helps with DJ Moore. Detroit's lack of defense, DJ Moore, you can bring him in. Laporta, this is one of those games you can play all your players, and you're going to get something. Look here for DFS values as well. Chargers at Green Bay, same story, especially the Chargers. Play Keenan Allen, you were going to anyway. Play Eckler, play Herbert. Awesome. I mean, this is great if you have those Chargers offense that even in losses are putting up huge points. They're going to do it again. Chargers defense, not fantastic. Love finishing just outside that range. And so I expect Love numbers here, Dowd's numbers a little bit. Aaron Jones hopefully will be back, but I wouldn't expect anything huge from him. It's really the Chargers side, but you can probably, eke some numbers out when you have to play your Green Bay guys. You can do that. Las Vegas at Miami. Miami, they are back, and they're going to go ham on this Las Vegas lack of defense. Play them all. Play Mustard, play Tua, play Hill, play Waddle. Well, I expect Waddle to get a touchdown in this one for sure. It's going to be Dallas Giants, Miami Vegas. That's what we're saying. I'm making the comparison right now. That's what you're going to get. New York and the Commanders. Sam Howell will be on the top 10 list yet again after this one. Just destroying QB3 overall. Sam Howell destroying numbers, destroying stat machines all over the place, destroying expectations everywhere. It's disgusting what he is doing, and he's going to be back. He will be there. Let me pull this up here for you guys. Sam Howell. Let me get to him right here. Boom. 5 out of the last 6 in the top 10. It's ridiculous. QB4 last week, QB3 overall, and now he has New York. Oh my gosh. Sam Howell, definitely. Brian Robinson, I'm going to say no on. I'm going to say no still on Brian Robinson. I said no on the Dingus picks of the week. Obviously, Brian Robinson finishes RB1, but it's because of the receptions. I lie. I'm not. You're going to play Ryan Robinson. Of course, you're going to play Ryan Robinson after finishing. But remember, only 2 running backs after finishing RB1 have even made the top 10 list. Same with quarterbacks. But only 2 running backs all season have even made the top 10 list. None have repeated until Brian Robinson. But Brian Robinson hadn't made the list since week 2. All right, so week 2, he finishes number 1. Doesn't show up on the list at all until last week. Now Robinson finishes number 1 again. I expect the same drop. That's what I see. I look at the stat sheet, I look at the numbers, and I see that no running back has gone from number 1 to getting back on the list other than twice. That's only happened twice. So Robinson finishes number 1. I don't think he's going to make the list again. That's just how I see it because there's a lot of good games set up, such as Dallas at Carolina. Now, what's interesting here, Dallas goes to Carolina. Carolina wide receivers, fantasy wide receivers are not putting up a lot of points against Carolina. All right, it's just one of these weird anomalies. Carolina doesn't have like this amazing defense, but fantasy wide receivers are not going ham like they should against Carolina. Okay, I don't expect Carolina to do too much. I expect Bryce Young to add a couple more sacks to his resume, a couple more picks to the resume. They might get in the end zone. I couldn't tell you who's actually going to, get in there because you can score on Dallas defense, but it's far and few between. You usually catch them in something, maybe garbage time, something like that. Dallas should dominate this game. I still expect Dak Prescott, again, same with the running backs. Only twice has a running back, only twice has a quarterback finished as QB1 and then even made the list the following week. So statistically, Dak Prescott shouldn't even make the list next week. Now, I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I won't be surprised if that happens because the numbers just aren't there against Carolina's defense for the wide receivers. It's one of those weird things. You're still going to play Dak Prescott. You're still going to play Lamb. You'd be crazy not to. I just don't know if you're going to get another 150-yard week from Lamb. I do expect Lamb to be on the list this week, and I suppose that makes an argument to put Dak back on the list, but I see Dak around 9-10 spot where Lamb coming down to 7-8 maybe. It's just that Carolina pass defense. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it's happening that way, but that's what we have been seeing, and so that's what I will go with. Tennessee at Jacksonville. Jacksonville better bounce back. Tennessee's a tough defense to do it against. I don't see a lot from Tennessee. Derrick Henry will bounce back from 24 wide receiving yards. Will Levis will have a better game than 199. Jacksonville will be back as well. Lawrence will get above 200. ETN will probably land himself back in that top 10 list. First time in 5 games that ETN was not on the list in week 10, but I expect him to make it back against Tennessee. I know Tennessee's run defense and all that, but ETN's been killing it. Jacksonville had been killing it until San Francisco, and they need to make a statement in this game. We're going to learn a lot in this game about Jacksonville, whether or not they bounce back. We will see what happens. I think that they will. Arizona at Houston. If you are a Houston owner, Stroud. Nico is hopefully back, so be careful with your Noah Brown play. Tank Dell, again, 14 targets. He just only caught 6 of them. 14 targets. So Tank Dell is getting the target. Stroud, of course, through the freaking roof right now. Stroud is the hot guy, although Sam Howell's one really people should be talking about. Stroud is top 10 2 weeks in a row. These young guys are getting it done. Stroud and Howell getting it done. Stroud should have a huge game against Arizona, but Arizona will not go quietly with Murray back. I don't know that you play anybody but Murray other than McBride. Running backs, wide receivers, I don't know if you want to go there. Connor has 73. Not a great showing for any Arizona wide receivers, but it is Murray's second game back. And so you have to expect it to get a little bit better, but I don't know if you're going to get like huge fantasy numbers here, even for Murray. Houston's defense has been stepping up. I see a Houston win in Houston. I see huge numbers from the Houston side. Singletary, you'll play him. You'll play all the usual suspects in Houston, and Houston will probably pay off for you. Tampa at San Francisco. Tampa playing better than I thought. That defense doing well. I don't think Evans is going to have 143, but he will be the top receiver again. San Francisco have been doing really great against the run, so I don't know if White's going to make the list this week. He gets bumped to number 11, just short of the list for week 10. I don't think he comes back against San Francisco. Tampa will get some plays. You can pass on San Francisco. You can get some numbers here. San Francisco should win this game. The defense should come out, and we should get the same Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy, I think, will probably get another interception in this one, but I wouldn't be surprised to see another 3-touchdown game. San Francisco dominate at home for the win. Coming off that big win last week. New York at Buffalo. Interesting game here. Buffalo 100% should win this game, but they 100% should have won last night. They are at home, and they lost at home last night. They got to play the Jets. That Jets defense is no joke. Probably the best in the entire NFL. They will give Buffalo trouble, and Buffalo's going to have to clean up those mistakes. If they play like they played last night, Buffalo will not win this game. Put that down. And it's not because of Zach Wilson or anything else. If Buffalo plays like they did last night, they will not win this game against this New York Jets defense. The Jets defense will hold them down just enough so that Zach Wilson can get something in the end zone, and it will be enough. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Buffalo tightens up. They are a playoff team. They should be playing at a higher level. I think that they will in this game. It's not going to be amazing numbers, not against this defense. Your fantasy players are going to suffer. You're going to play them, but they're going to suffer against this defense. Do not expect big numbers coming off this game. You'll probably see some dingus sits out of this game as well, but Buffalo should still win this game. Just fantasy-wise, DFS. I don't know if you really want to go here, but maybe that's the trap. Seattle at the Rams. I expect big numbers here from all the way around. The Rams coming off the bye week. Everybody's going to be fresh. I think they're going to show up. This Seattle defense can be beat. And I think because of the bye week, you're going to see big numbers coming out of Los Angeles. I think you'll see about the same numbers you saw this week coming out of Seattle, almost identical. Again, Metcalf with 98, Lockett with 92. Maybe JSN will be replace one of those guys on that list. Walker and Charbonnet combined for just over 100, I think, this week. And that's probably what you're going to see. You're going to see a split up backfield. It'll be the Geno show, and he'll probably get, 260, 290, somewhere in there. Los Angeles is going to do the same thing. I think you're going to do well fantasy-wise here. I think you find some DFS values as well. These aren't going to be your top scorers, but I think they will do well. Minnesota at Denver. Denver, again, they're cooking right now, but so is Minnesota. Good night, Josh Dobbs coming into Minnesota. Dobbs might get his first loss here. Denver playing at home. Denver's a hard place to play. And Dobbs, I'm not sure if he's ready for it, but it's not his first time being in Denver. He's going to have to play here. Dobbs really is on a hot streak, but so is Denver. It's going to be a good game. I don't know what is going to happen fantasy-wise. Take your chances if you want to play Dobbs or whatever. Addison, they completely shut down. Buffalo made a lot of mistakes, but their pass game was completely shut down last night. Denver's pass defense stepped up. Surtain knocking, just knocking everybody around, keeping everything out of the air. So I don't think you're going to get big numbers out of Dobbs. And he hasn't been putting up big numbers anyway. So I don't know what the play is there in Minnesota. Denver, same way. Although, again, Russell Wilson, under 9 missed passes every week, except the Jets 11 in week 4. I mean, his efficiency is in the 80s every single week, and that might be enough to win, to beat Minnesota. Of course, we got the Super Bowl rematch. Philadelphia, Kansas City, play them all. Philadelphia's defense is going to step up, and you're probably going to get some lower numbers, but I expect Kelce to eat big in this one. I expect A.J. Brown to eat big in this one. Mahomes is going to take some sacks. He may even throw an interception, but he's going to put up some big numbers in a comeback. I see this going a lot like the Super Bowl. I see Philadelphia coming out fast. I see Philadelphia putting up numbers. I see Kansas City having to make the comeback, but I don't see Mahomes injured this time, and so I don't think it's going to be so hard. And I think Kansas City wins at home. Kansas City, a horrible place to play. Philadelphia already, worried about the win from losing last year in the Super Bowl. And DFS-wise, play them. Philadelphia at Kansas City. This is going to be a great game for fantasy. Again, probably not the top game. I really think that's going to be the Las Vegas-Miami game or the Chicago-Detroit game. You'll get some big numbers out of LA versus the Chargers versus Green Bay. But you're going to get your guys will show up. Mahomes will have numbers. Hurts will have numbers. Hurts will be on the list again when we get done. A.J. Brown is going to be there yet again. Keep the streak alive. Kansas City wide receivers will be there again. And it's just, a big committee win for Kansas City. The defense will step up in the end, and Kelce and company. And that's what we're calling Kelce, because Kelce's the one carrying the team, Kelce and Mahomes gets all the credit. So I'm giving Kelce and company will come out with the win against Philadelphia. That is week 11 for you. Those are the plays that you want to make. The show keeps trucking along. Adam had to go, and so we finish it out. And so the way I want to finish it is with some more stats. I think if you guys want to call in, by all means, call in. We'd love to have your calls. We'd love to hear you talk. I want to mention Wake Up Fantasy. Wake Up with TSS. Let's get that banner out of the way. Wake Up TSS is live Sunday mornings on the Fantasy Sports Corporation channel. They will get you ready for your fantasy day every morning around 8 a.m. And Fantasy Jesus is there. The Dingus Picks of the Weeks are there. That beautiful hottie right there will not be there, but you can think about it the whole time while you watch TSS Wake Up on the Fantasy Sports Corporation. Go do that every Sunday morning. Let's go ahead and, I see what we're doing. Let's bring that back down. There we go. And we're back. So I want to finish up the show with some stats that, in case you missed them, that you guys want to know, and then some things that are going to help you out with your fantasy day. So let's finish out again, and let's get statted up. I want to bring up this one again from Ben over there. because it's just an amazing stat. Ben Holloway at Ben DTS Podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been outgained in total yardage for all 9 games. They've been outscored by 26 points. The Chargers have outscored their opponents by 24, yet Steelers are 6-3, Chargers are 4-5. And that's how it goes. I mean, the schedule, the eking out the wins, the showing up when you're supposed to show up, the finishing. That's what it comes down to, finishing. Pittsburgh able to finish, Chargers not, and it's not a great life to be a Chargers fan all the time. That's really what that comes down to. It's crazy. Some of these numbers I want to get into with you guys. We keep these stats. We run these every week. Quarterbacks across the season. Let's talk about them real quick. So quarterbacks we know you have to have, and the stats absolutely support this. Every week, on average, you have about 15, 16. I think the average is probably closer to 17 that get quarterbacks that get above 15 points. All right. But what's more important are the ones that get above 20. And that's only around 10. But from 15 to 10, that's still pretty good. Okay. So you've got 10 quarterbacks every week, and you're hoping you have one. But you're talking about a 10-team league, 12-team league. That's enough there for everybody to eat. Okay, so 10 quarterbacks on average every week get above 20 points. Okay, this week only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 quarterbacks have gotten above 30 all season. So 10 quarterbacks get above 20 every week, but only 9 have gotten above 30 all season. Prescott did it this week. And so when you're looking at that quarterback, yes, it's important, but you can still stream that quarterback position. Okay, again, 10, 12-team league, when you have 10 or more quarterbacks getting above 20 points every week, okay, you can stream that quarterback. You can find one. You can win. This week on the top 10 list, it only took, sorry about that, it only took 19 points. 19 points to make the top 10 list. So considering that's 9 of your top 10 quarterbacks this week got above 20 points. So you can find those quarterbacks. Yes, quarterbacks are important, but they all get big numbers. You can do that. Now, running backs is a different story. When you get into running backs, all right, running backs, there's enough there for everybody, but consider you have to play two running backs. So take that in mind. Running backs, you only needed 17 points to make the top 10 list this week. You only need 17. All right. But 14 running backs, only 14 got above 15 points, which seems like a lot. 14 running backs over 15 points. But there's in a 10-team league, there's 20 running backs. In a 12, there's 24. And only 15 got even above 15 points. You want to get into the elite category to make the top 10 list, you had to be above 17. Okay. So above 20 points, it was only 5 this week. And that's about the average. Say the average is about 6.5. 6.5 running backs every week get above 20 points. Only 6.5 get above 20 points. So when you're talking a minimum of 20, more likely 24 or more in the league you're in, to find those elite running backs is extremely important. All right. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 running backs. And really, it's only 6 running backs because people have done it over, have gotten above 30. 6 running backs have gotten above 30 points all season. All right. And nobody's done it since week 7. So to get the above 30 is, the unicorn. But to get above 20 is extremely important to find that running back. And then it makes it even more difficult in the fact, like we said, if at quarterback and running back, only 2 number 1 running backs have even made the top 10 list the next week. Okay. Almost nobody is on a streak right now. No, almost nobody. ETN just had his 4-game streak snap. Okay. Eckler's made the top 10 list 3 times. He's on a 3-game streak. 3-game streak. Okay. And that's it. That's your streak, other than CMC. CMC's on a 7-game tear. He's on a 3-game streak because he had a bye week. But Eckler and CMC are the only guys on a 3-game streak. That's it. So finding those running backs every week, it's very important. Waiver wire, trades. Okay, ETN had been on the list 4 weeks in a row. He finished as running back 1, 2, 4, 5. All right, then he went on the bye, and he missed it this week. I think he'll be back next week. So ETN, a great one to have. Kamara, last week was the first week in 7 games that Kamara wasn't there. Kamara's been on top of the list 6 out of 7 weeks, right? Just ekes in at number 10 this week. That's 17 points. He's the 17.8. All right, but the running backs are all over the place. All right, 43 different running backs make the list. 2 from the same team this week. 2 from the same team. Who would have guessed that? Did you have both? You running both Pittsburgh running backs? No, you were not. Show me that lineup. Didn't happen. Okay, so running backs, you've got to find them every week because they're different every week. The running backs are different every week. It's a crapshoot. Only 2 running backs are on a 3-game streak, if you want to call 3 games a streak. Nobody else is doing 3 in a row. Okay? Wide receivers. Wide receivers, kind of the same story. Okay, wide receivers takes 19.7 to make the top 10 list. Obviously, a lot more receivers, a lot more work. That's the way the game is set up. But 19 wide receivers this week finished above 15. And that's right about the average. I'd say take out week 2, which is the outlier for all these stats, and it's about 21. Usually 21 receivers will make it above 15 points, but that's not enough to make it in the top 10. Again, we're talking anywhere from 20 to 30, because a lot of even 10-team leagues run 3 wide receiver sets. So 20 to 30, move that over. Okay, 24 to 36 for your 12-team league. Well, only 21 are making it above 15 points. So 15 is kind of a good day. Here's the drop-off. Above 20 points, there was only 9 this week. And that's average. 9 is right down the middle. Only 9 wide receivers every week get above 20 points. Now, usually 3 wide receivers will actually get above 30 points. So if you have those big name performers, okay, we've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different receivers. It's happened like 13 times, but 9 different receivers have gone over 40. Okay, Chase is the only one to go over 50. 9 different receivers over the entire year have gone over 40. That's the entire year. Okay, usually 3 go over 30, but only 9 go over 20. Only 9. Out of all the wide receivers in your league, you've got to try and find those 9. And again, the consistency isn't there. Allen is the only one to repeat as a number 1, but it's not like he went back to back. He had weeks 2 and 3, but then he doesn't get wide receiver 1. He actually only made top 10 list 1 time until this week, where he finishes number 1. Okay, streak-wise, you're talking about A.J. Brown. Hill broke his streak. He's got 4 times since week 5, and of course he was on the bye. So he's got 4 times in 5 games. And we know that about Hill. Lamb is on a streak right now. I think that will continue for the top 10 list. And A.J. Brown is on a streak. A.J. Brown's on a 4-game streak right now. But other than Lamb and A.J. Brown, again, A.J. Brown's on a 4-game streak. Lamb's on a 3-game streak. No one's putting together a streak. I'm not calling 2 games in a row a streak. I won't do that. But nobody's going 3. So just like the running backs, you have to find those wide receivers because it's not the same ones every week. You're looking for the matchups. You got to work the waiver wire. These stats blew my mind putting them together, first of all. They should blow your mind. But they're also very important to your fantasy game. All right? Take those stats, use them, enjoy them. You're all statted up. EFIN Morning After Show, keeping you all statted up. We're helping you win your fantasy season. Join us live every Tuesday right here on the Fantasy Sports Corporation channel. You can call in live, as you can see, but myself, Adam Hulse, NFL writer at Sportskeeda, we will be here. We'll help answer your fantasy questions. We'll give you all those stats that you want to know. We'll talk about all the games that you saw and that are coming up. We do that for you every week. Adam Hulse is my co-host at Adam Hulse Sports. Go check him out. Fantastic articles over at Sportskeeda, and he cranks them out. You are going to want to listen to every single one. Read every single one. He's just fantastic, and he will definitely 100% help you win your fantasy season. It's Tuesday, so tonight you want to catch TSS Waiver Wire. They will be there. They are live Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern on the Fantasy Sports Corporation channel. Who should you play? Who should you not play? Go to TSS Fantasy and find out. Every Tuesday night, 9:30 on the Fantasy Sports Corporation. I think we've hit everybody that's a part of this show. We got just all the information that you want right here. Join us next Tuesday, and we'll make sure that you guys are taken care of. That's what we do here. We take care of you. We help you win your fantasy season. Got to thank Ben Holloway at Band DTS. I'll throw that back up there. Band DTS podcast for that amazing stat as well. Everything else comes from us. Excuse me. Everything else comes from us right here on that EFIN morning after show. I hope it helps. Hope you guys have a great fantasy week. I hope you will come back and join us. Hope you give us a call next time on the show. Adam will be back. We'll get you guys statted up. We'll get the Hulse check done. We'll run through all the games like we always do. Hope you guys take care. Have a great one, and we'll see you guys next week right here on the Fantasy Sports Corporation. It's that EFIN morning after show. See you guys next time. Be safe, everyone.